channel. My name is Chris and I'm a gorilla in the wrist. Today we're reviewing the San Martin SN0105G, a vintage inspired homage possibly to a 1940s Jaeger Le Couture pilot's watch. And the question is it good enough for the modern world, or should we allow it to lay in the past to grow old gracefully and elegantly? Let's find out. So in terms of the specifications for this watch, the dial width is 38.5mm, the lug to lug is 47.2, the lug width is a standard 20mm, and the thickness comes in at just under 12mm. It weighs in at 70 grams on the supplied leather strap. It has the NH35 movement in it. The crystal is K1 mineral and it is water resistant to 100 meters, although who would want to take it into 100 meters with a leather strap on is beyond me. So what are my gripes about this watch? I think I'd start off with the fact that it's not sapphire crystal, and I entirely get and respect that this is a vintage homage, and therefore the K1 acrylic type crystal may be appropriate. But I'm a gorilla. I walk into things, I smash my arms into things, which means I'm going to have to be particularly careful with this one. And the other thing I really don't like about this watch is the strap. There's nothing wrong with it in terms of quality, so it's reasonable thickness. I mean, clearly, because I am a gorilla, it didn't fit me. But it's not, so it wasn't really long enough for me. But it's suede. It's slightly too large. It squeaks. You probably can't hear that, but because it's suede and leather, it's catching against the inside of the lugs, and it's making a bit of a racket. Even having worn it for a couple of days, that hasn't really improved very much. So for me, I think that's a little bit disappointing. To give its credit, it is well made, as you would expect from San Martin. Stitching is pretty good and it is quick release, which is great because that makes it all the easier to get off the watch and get on something that you really like. And I'm going to stick a few examples of the sorts of things that I'm looking at. I suspect I will end up with some vintage style leather on this because that does feel appropriate. And then in terms of the things I like, I'm shaking. In terms of the things I like about this watch, there's quite a few. I do like the simplicity and elegance of the dial. Now I know this is an homage, so I can't give any credit to San Martin. This is clearly an homage to sort of early vintage 40s Jaeger Le Couture pilot style watches. I will stick a picture up in the corner so you can see the one I'm talking about. But it's that simple elegance. It's not huge, it's sort of 39mm, but it just looks wonderful. It's a great watch to wear. It's a great dressy type watch, as well as a pilot style watch as well. The other things I like, I mean, the finishing. Again, this isn't going to be a shock to anybody. The finishing is just really, really good. I like the brush steel look, but then it sort of transitions to high polish across the whole thing, and the crown, again, massive, nicely branded, but again, well finished with that sort of shiny chamfered edge all the way around it, and nicely knurled as well, so it's very easy to use. And then the last thing I really like, I do love the colour of the hands. That sort of, I'll call it burnished blue. They refer to it as baked blue. I hope they're not baking them. But it's just very, very different for me. I think it looks wonderful. I think the colour match against that cream dial is superb. And yeah, really, really like it. I must have been very good, Santa, to leave me this. I think too often we see homage brands just churning out different versions of divers or pilot's watch, and San Martin are as guilty of that as any. But this does feel like a little bit of a break with that, for which I think I am really grateful. I think for the money you pay for them, I think they're pretty good value. Um, I think there is a bit of timeless elegance about this. I guess my only criticism about it from that vintage perspective is the size at 39mm, which makes it wearable for us gorillas. But I guess if you're looking at something with that true sort of vintage aesthetic, then the argument would probably be that actually you would have something smaller. So I think the Jaeger Le Couture that this one is based on, I think, is 34mm. Um, reality of the world is we don't tend to wear watches that small, rightly or wrongly, and certainly on my wrist, I think I would struggle with that. But so it is a little bit different. It does have a certain amount of elegance and simplicity to it that works for it. It's not perfect, so there are some things about this that I don't like. That I understand. I entirely get that they've tried to stick as close to the aesthetic with the crystal. Um, and what they've put on here is perfectly decent. There's nothing wrong with it. But just from a practical perspective, I'm going to smack into things. There's a good chance I'm going to crack this one. So I'll have to be very careful about how I wear it. And just that strap. It's a good effort. I know what they were trying to do, but it just doesn't really work for me. I will be putting it onto. I have somewhere. I couldn't find it for this video. I have somewhere got the sand-coloured San Martin NATO strap, which I was desperately looking for but couldn't find, which would go really nicely on here. I suspect it will end up on brown vintage leather, just because I think it fits very well with that style of watch. But yeah, this is a good, I think a solid 8.5 for me. A few changes to make, very plain case back, obviously. But yeah, I think a winner. So if you like this video, then please like and subscribe. If you don't, you know the drill. Tell me what you think is different. I would like to hear what you think about the strap choices. What colour strap would you put on it? And I would be interested in your take on the crystal. Should they have gone for sapphire? I wish they had, but I understand why they didn't. Other than that, have a fantastic new year, and we'll see you in the new year with lots of reviews to come. Santa was very kind to me this year. Bye.